Hi, welcome to my video on the graphs of cosine and sine theta, part 3, restricted domains. The domain of cos theta and sine theta is the set of real numbers. Restricting the domain means selecting an interval in degrees or radians. Let's look at some examples in degrees. 0 is less than or equal to theta, less than or equal to 360. So we're looking for all the degrees between 0 and 360 equal to 0 equal to 360. And this one is negative 180 less than equal to theta less than equal to 180. So it's between negative 180 and 180 and also including negative 180 and 180. C, 90 is less than or equal to theta less than or equal to 450. So between 90 and 450 equal to 90 equal to 450. That's in degrees. Examples in radians: 0 less than or equal to theta less than, now notice it's not equal to 2 pi. So it's between 0 and 2 pi equal to 0 but not equal to 2 pi. And in terms of radians, this radian is 2 pi, so that's equivalent to 360 degrees. And B, negative theta less than or equal to negative pi less than or equal to theta less than or equal to pi. So that's between negative 180 and 180, but these are in radians. And when you think of a radian, you think of 2 pi, you think of the maximum value is 6.28 radians. Pi is 3.14, negative 3.14 to 3.14. But in terms of pi, if you look at degrees, you can also see how to see the rotation goes. This one is between pi over 2, which is 180 over 2, which is 90, less than or equal to theta, less than or equal to 5 pi over 2. So notice pi over 2 is 90. This is 5 90s, and 5 times 9 is 450. So in degrees, it's between 90 and 450. But we have it in radians. So let's look at some examples of graphing. When we have y equals sine theta, and between negative 360, less than or equal to theta, less than or equal to 0. So let's look at the circle, which I always draw. Split it, do the axes. And notice, again, the radius is 1, so this point is 1, 0. This point is 0, 1. This point is negative 1, 0. And this point is 0, negative 1, because the radius is 1 from the center, 0, 0. This distance out here is 1. This distance up here is 1. This distance is negative 1. And this distance for the y is negative 1. So, negative 360. So there's a 0 right here. So negative 360 is all the way back right to here. So sine is the y, so it's a 0. So negative 360 is a 0. And we're going negative 360, so negative 270 is here. So the sine is 1. So sine is 1 for negative 270. And 0 is here, negative 180 is here. So sine is the y, which is 0. Negative 90, remember this is the negative 180 in the middle. This is the negative 90. This is the negative 270. So it's broken up into 3 parts. No, broken up into 4 parts. Split in the middle and then split again. 90, negative 180, negative 270. And at negative 90, y is negative 1. Sine is the y value, so negative 90 is negative 1. And we're back to 0, 0, sine is 0. Sine is the y. So from negative 360, this is what we call restricted domain. It's just a part of the graph. Remember, the sine graph is periodic. It keeps going on and on and on. So we're just looking at the graph from negative 360 to 0. And let's look at B. What about y equals sine theta from a negative 90 less than or equal to theta to less than or equal to 270. So that's a negative 180 in the middle. that's the negative 90, that's negative 270. And so over here, that's 360. So there's 180 in the middle. That's a 90 in the middle of 0 and 180. And between 180 and 360 in the middle is 270. So we're going from negative 90, which is here, to 270, which is here. Notice we have one complete cycle. So if you take negative 90 and add on 360, you get 270. Now if you add it on, 360, yes. Negative 90 add on 360 is 270. So it's a full 360 degrees. So negative 90, let's rotate. Negative 90 is here. Sine is the y, so we have negative 1. We're gone to 0. 0 is here. Sine is the y value, which is 0. 90 rotation is here. The sine is the y value of 1. Now you notice to see the pattern. You're down here. You're going up to 0, up to 1. And once you get to 1, you got to go back down. So you go back down in the middle to a 0. Then you go down to negative 1. And you go back up to 0. So once you see the pattern, and you can verify that, there's the graph. You verify it. Let's look at 90. There's a 1. 180. Y is 0. 270. Over here, 270 is negative 1. Perfect. And back to 360, which is here. Y is 0. Sine is 0. So there's the graph. So we're restricting the domain. And the reason I'm practicing that, because when we solve equations, the domain, you'll see when we restrict the domain, we'll pick the answers out from certain part of the graph. And practice again, graph each. Practice means pause the video and graph these. So that means stop, pause the video, draw your graph like I have it, and see if you can graph it correctly. And when you have that done, press play to see if you're right. So again, I always draw the circle. Here it comes. So it's 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, 0, and 0, negative 1. There it is. Again, this is 0. This is a 90 rotation. This is a 180 rotation. This is 270 degree rotation. There's 360 all the way around. And a negative 90, negative 180, negative 270, negative 360. So we're going, sine is the y. Sine is the y. Remember, if you think of it, cos and sine alphabetically. C is before S. And if you think about it, x is before y. So cos is related to the x. Sine is related to the y. 0 degrees. 0 degrees, sine is 0. Right there. We're going to all the way through. So that's a 90. And that's 180. That's 270. 360. And that's 540. So this is 450. This is 630. We're just going to keep rotating around, around, around. So we're going to 2 cycles. So 90 is 1. 180, 0. 270, negative 1. 360, back to 0. So notice we went 0 to a 1 to a 0 to a negative 1 to a 1. Now we're going to 720. So I know now, according to the pattern, that I will go up to 1. I'll go down to 0. I'll go down to negative 1. And I'll go to 0. So I can automatically do that when I know what the pattern is. But if you want to check it out, so let's check out. This is 450. So 450 is the same as a 90. 1. 540, same as a 180, which is 0. And we have 630. 630 is 270, which is negative 1. And 720 is the same as rotating twice around, and we got 0. So there's the graph. And let's graph again. Again, pause the video. We're doing y equals sine theta, and we're going from negative 180 to 180. So we're going from here to here. And I should have put a 1 in there and a negative 1. And right here I should have put a 1 and a negative 1. I have it down here, but I don't have it here. Note the sine theta. Maximum is 1. Excuse me. Minimum is negative 1. And let's graph y equals sine theta from negative 180 to 180. So negative 180 is right here. So that's a 0. Sine is a 0. And we go to negative 90 is here, which is negative 1. And then we got a 0. Sine of 0 is 0. And 90 is right here. So sine is 1. And 180 is right here, 0. Remember, sine is the y value. So the graph is, there it is. Again, one complete cycle. It's an S, but notice the S. This is an S. Notice this S is going reverse. But the period is 360. Negative 180, add on 360 is, and negative 180 add on 360 is 180. So one complete cycle. So let's graph some more. But this time we're going to graph cos. And cos is associated with the x. So this is theta. Now, we can call this the x, the vertical axis, but I don't want to get confused with this vertical axis being the y. But I can put cos theta here and leave x out. Because if I put 180 in, then I'm doing the cos of 180 to get this value. So 180, this is between 180 and 720. 180 and 720 is here. So cos is the x. 180. Oh, let's draw the diagram down here so we don't have to travel so far. 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, 0, 0. Always good to practice writing it down. And again, we know that the radius is 1. So this is 0, 90, 180, 270, 360. And keep going. You add up. So 180. So 180, we're doing cos, and cos is the x. So 180 is the x, so we get 180 is negative 1. And we go to 270. 270 to cos is 0. 360 right here, all the way around, cos is 1. 360, a 1. So now we have to go to 450. And 450 is the same as 90. So the cos is the x, we got a 0. 540 is the same as 180, which is negative 1. And we got, this is add on 90, so 630. 630 is the same as 270, and cos is 0. And 720 is the same as 360 twice, and we got a 1. So we start down here, and we go, there's the graph. I'm just going this way. I like to draw my graph a certain way. So there's the, and notice, between here and here, between 360 and 720, you have a C, so that's a cos graph. This is a part of the cos graph, but it's extended. So if I went here, I would have to go back up to 0, back up to 1. I would see the beginning of the, there's, but this is a half of the cos graph. And this is the other half. The cycle is still 360. But the cos theta is related to the x. So now we want to graph x equals cos theta from a negative 270 up to a 90. So negative 90 is here. Negative 180, negative 270. That's a 180, so that's a 90. And that's a 270, just to fill them in. So cos is the x. And again, this is x, but it's really doing the cos of theta. Again, don't get confused. This is the vertical axis, which is, this is theta. This is the vertical axis, which is the cos theta, or the x. Don't say that's the y. You can. Most people get most teachers will put a y on this. They'll say y equals cos theta. But, okay, so this axis is the y, but it's really not. It's the little bit confusing. Ask your teacher. If you get, see if your teacher that you have teaching you the math will explain if you're doing this topic right now. So negative 270 is 0, negative 90, negative 180, there's a negative 270. Cos is the x, so negative 270, I got a 0. Negative 180 is right here, so cos is negative 1. Negative 90 right here, cos is 0. Now you can see the pattern, but here's the pattern. Now I can keep going, and I got it. There's the 1, back to 0. But I got to check to see if if this is right, and this is right, the next one is 0, next one is 1, next one is 0. But I got to check to see if it's right. So let's do 90. 90 is right here, cos is 0. Perfect. Let's do 0. 0 is here, cos is 1. Remember, cos is the x. Perfect. That's the graph. Looks like the graph is a sine graph turned upside down. Remember, a sine graph is positive when it goes up first. But we'll get more into that when we do sinusoidal functions. Not right now. And let's do some more graphing. Again, pause the video and see if you can graph these. And again, I like to have the circle in front of me so there's less confusion. 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, 0, and 0, negative 1. Remember, the radius is 1, center is 0, 0. So, we're going from a negative 180 to 180 for cos. The cos is the x. Negative 180 is right here. Cos is negative 1. And we're going negative 90. Cos is 0. Cos is the x. And if you take your calculator to verify it, and the calculator got to be in degree mode. Your calculator has to be in degree mode. So if I pick up my calculator, which I have here, and turn it on, notice my calculator that I have here, right here. My calculator, and I'll show it to you. It says degree mode. Degree is right. Let's put it down so you can see. That's degree. And on this calculator, you change degree right here. But it's in degree mode. If you put your calculator in radian mode, you better take it back out of it right away. So I keep everything in degree mode. I convert my radians to degrees and keep it simple. So I'm just going to say, what's the cos of, what's the cos of 0 degrees? And the calculator says 1. So you can use your calculator to get all these answers. But I like to use the circle. So, negative 180, I have a negative 1, 0. So I notice by the pattern, there's a 1, and that's a 0, and that's a negative 1. So cos is the x. Let's see. 0, cos. There's 0 degrees, cos is 1. 90 degrees, cos is 0. 180 degrees, cos is negative 1. So there's the graph. And you notice it's upside down. If you go from 0 to 360, there's 0 to 360. That would be positive. Notice that's positive, but we'll get into that later. Graph x equals cos theta from 360 to 720. Cos is the x, 360. All the way around, 1. And in between, we have, this is 360, add on 90 is 450. Add on 90 is 540, add on 90 is 630. So, if that's 360, then this is a 90, which is a 0. 450 is a 90. So 540 is 180 equivalent. This is 180 on the 360. So it's a negative 1. And if that pattern is right, 630 here is 0. and 720 for cos is 1. So there's the grid. And again, take your calculator and use cos. The cos of 360, the cos of 450, the cos of 540, and you'll get the 1, 0, -1 on your calculator. But you have to be in degree mode. Now let's do some more practice. Pause the video and graph each. So now the graph is in terms of, notice we have radians. So that's a -360. So sine is the y. So we're going from -360, which is here, up to 0. So that's -pi/2. That's a 90. And this is -3pi/2, which is 270. So it's 90, -90, -180, -270, -360. So instead of looking at 2 pi, convert it to -360. So again, draw this circle. Always good to have this circle. Keep it close. Always on the unit circle. Keep it close and you'll be okay. So -360 is right there, which is 1. And so -360 is, we're doing sine, right? Oh, sine is the y. So that's a 0. I picked the x. Sine is the y. So take your calculator, go to sine of -360, and you get 0. Now I got to do a -270. -270 is right here. It's the y, so I have a 1. And -180 is right here. Sine is a 0. And we have a -90, which is right here. Sine is -1. And we got 0 degrees. There's 0 degrees. And sine is the y, which is 0. Again, sometimes it's good to check with your calculator. I got to check sometimes just to make sure. But there it is. But it's in terms of radians. But when I graph, I have my grid. I have my scale marked in radians. But I cheat in one way, is that I call that -360, -270. So I will do the rotation in terms of degree, even though I have the radians marked there, because I convert the radians to degrees in order to look at this graph. Now I'm doing x equals cos theta. So again, this is sine theta here, which is the y, and this is cos theta here, which is the x. So here we go. So we're looking at 90. Pi/2 is 180 divided by 2, which is 90. And 3 pi, so that's 3 times 180. So that's 540. So I gotta have it in radians now. So this is pi/2, which is 90. This is 3 pi/2, which is 270. This is 2 pi, and this is 2 pi, and there's 3 pi, so this is 5 pi/2. Think about it. Notice I got pi/2, 3 pi/2, 5 pi/2. Remember, this is, if you think about it, this is 540, and this is 360. So right in the middle of that is 450. So 450 is 5 90s. Pi/2 is a 90. Remember, that's a 90. This is in terms of pi/2. This one is going to be in terms of pi/2. So here we go. We got the graph from 90. So we're doing cos is the x. 90. Cos is the x. 90. Cos is 0. So check your calculator. The cos of 90. The cos of 90 should be a 0. Now let's look at pi. Right here. Cos is -1. Cos is the x. 270. 3, that's a 90 times 3. 270. Cos is a 0. Now if we're right, and we keep going, that's a 1. Then that's a 0. And we're This is a negative 1. So the graph is going from here, like this, there's the graph of that. Again, cos. And again, just to check, take up your calculator and we're going to check to see if we got 450 right. The cos of 450 should be a 0. Let's see if we're right. Turn it on. The cos of 450. Perfect. And if we do 3 pi, that's the cos of 450. So the cos of, 540 is -1. So I checked with my calculator just to make sure. So that's graphing with restricted domains, but I always draw this grid, this circle, and remember the radius of this circle is 1, the center is 0, 0. So again, repeat, x is 1, y is 0, x is 0, y is 1, x is -1, y is 0, x is 0, y is -1. And don't forget, cos is associated with the x, and sine is associated with the y. Cos is with the x, sine is with the y. Show you that. Cos is with the x, sine is with the y. And that brings us to the end of this video. And if you like this video on restricted domains, then click on the like button, subscribe button, and visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com, to find more information about me, my videos, and the content. That's the content on my YouTube channel called Math Fully Explained. Thank you for viewing my video. Bye-bye.